Dear Evelyn, Vikings is an epic tale told beautifully, which, for the first few seasons, centres upon Ragnar Lothbrok, the semi-mythical figure and father of the invaders of Saxon England. But what struck me the most was its excellent and generally accurate portrayal of the Norse and Saxon cultures. On the one side are the Northmen, apparently wild and bloody in their practices, but short on farming land. On the other are the Saxons, apparently more refined, and with excellent land and treasure. In the first season, we're introduced to the Norse culture through the eyes of Athelstan, a kidnapped Saxon priest. They are lewd and illiterate, sexually promiscuous and violent. At first we're shocked, and then, perhaps along with Athelstan, a little enthralled. The Norse culture seems almost as alien to us as it does to Athelstan. This assertion that cultures in some way approach the moral aspects of life in fundamentally different ways is called cultural relativism. This anthropological theory has two primary categories. The first is cognitive relativism, which holds that different cultures have different worlds of knowledge. This is largely rejected nowadays because there is quite clear evidence for a human, not social, way of thinking. The other category is moral relativism, which in anthropology maintains that different cultures have different moral beliefs and practices. Vikings amply demonstrates this idea. The sexual liberty, for instance, of the Norse culture stands in stark contrast to the stifled and repressive Saxon attitude. The Saxons also treat women in a way more akin to property than full citizenship, whereas the Northmen value women as potential leaders in their society, though evidence for shield maidens is certainly mixed. But it goes deeper than that. Both cultures believe that their moral codes emanate from their religious beliefs. The Northmen are intent upon emulating the lives of the Norse gods. They desire to entertain them with their lives in the hope of entering Valhalla, whereas the Saxons believe they owe moral duty to the Christian God in the same way that subjects owe duty to their king. Indeed, this attitude that our way is the right way is not one that is restricted to the religious cultures of the past, but it can be found here and now. Our own system of moral rules attempts to declare its rightness. We reform laws, invade countries, broker peace deals for moral reasons. We impose our will for moral reasons. But the consequence of cultural relativism, the claim that morality is culturally generated, is that no culture's morality is any better or worse than any other. Because when there is no objective basis for morality, there is no rule book, no absolute and correct way of behaving, only what our culture evolved to call right and wrong. As the anthropologist W.G. Sumner wrote, morals can never be intuitive. They are historical, institutional, and empirical. But that's not where the story ends. In fact, many anthropologists have gone on to reject cultural relativism, at least in part. Whilst there are clear differences between cultures, there are also clear similarities. Both the Norse and Saxon cultures have rules around religion, outlawing people who are perceived to have rejected the god or gods. For the Saxons, we see that clearly in the attempted crucifixion of a now de-Christianized Athelstan, whereas the Northmen shone Rollo for being baptized a Christian. Similarly, both cultures have rules around sex, gender equality, and importantly, obedience to authority. The rules may differ slightly, but there are rules surrounding these issues nonetheless. As Michael F. Brown writes in the journal Current Anthropology, no society lacks some degree of internal tension along such fault lines as gender, social rank, sexual orientation, or religious persuasion. Perhaps it's the case that humans need to have rules around certain issues. We need morality, but those rules do differ from culture to culture. The journey of Athelstan is in some ways a journey of anthropology. He is thrust into a world that seems so foreign to him, and he learns that whilst our cultures might divide us, in sometimes shocking ways, our essential human nature, our biology, makes us much more similar than we sometimes admit. Sweet dreams.